Hey guys, it's Andy with the Law Office of Andrew P. Gross. We do veterans disability benefits matters across the country and even across the world, actually. We've got some folks living overseas now. And then we also do estate planning in Maryland and D.C. Today I want to talk a little bit about the supplemental claims process and what a supplemental claim is for and how to use it. And but before I do all that, what I want to talk about is the background, right? So prior to 2019, if you got a rating decision that you disagreed with, or really any VA decision that you disagreed with, what you would do is you would file what's called a Notice of Disagreement, and you could select either the Decision Review Officer process or go direct to the Board of Veterans' Appeals, and you would eventually get a statement of the case, and eventually you'd have to file a Form 9, and then the VA would file a Form 8, and it was kind of a convoluted process. But in 2019, that all changed. In 2019, as I've discussed elsewhere, you got the Congress gave you three choices as to how to appeal a decision that was issued after February 19th, 2019. Those three options were the higher level review, which is just a review of the file by a senior decision review officer, so someone who's been around the VA for a little while longer. And critically, though, they cannot review new evidence. So whatever evidence was in the file when that last decision was made is the evidence that they can review, what they call a de novo review or a review from scratch. Now, the second thing you can do is you can go up to the Board of Veterans' Appeals. Now, the Board of Veterans' Appeals, you actually have three separate options when you do that. One is to either go directly, kind of like a higher level review where you're not adding any new evidence. The next option would be to submit a new evidence that you might have. You have 90 days from the date that you file. Or you can submit or ask for a hearing. And in this hearing, you actually go before a veterans law judge and discuss your case with them. You can discuss law, you can discuss the facts, you can add new evidence to the record. So this is a little bit of a change from what happened prior. Now, the Board of Veterans' Appeals process, that can take years at this point. I've discussed that in other videos and why the backlog is so long and kind of the circumstances and drama behind that. The third option is the supplemental claim, and this is probably the most common thing people do. The supplemental claim, which is what this video is about, is filed on a 20-995 form. Again, 20-0995. Now, that form you would file, and you could do two things. First, you'd file and list the locations of federal records that you want associated with your file for the review. That could be VA medical records, so you don't have to get them yourself. You just point out the VA medical records you want right on the form. There might be federal records like Social Security disability records. It might also be medical records or some other records from your service record that you don't think was associated with your file. The second thing you can do is that you can submit new and relevant evidence that you have outside the VA. And common examples of that might be medical records from your private non-VA doctors. You might also submit sworn statements or lay statements or buddy statements. They go by many different names. A statement in support of claim is the most common term for it, where you have maybe former colleagues from the military, battle buddies, what have you, write letters about what happened that caused your disability, or you have statements about how you've had this disability continuously since you've served, or perhaps you might have your own statement where you discuss how this disability affects you, how it came about, what you've done to treat it, again, to show that continuity of care and treatment from the time you were injured in service until present. And I've discussed these statements in supports of claim and lay evidence in other videos, so I'm not going to get too deep into it here. Another thing you could submit are pictures. I've actually had clients submit pictures of themselves showing their current condition, or maybe it shows that they were at a certain place at a certain time. Maybe they have a picture of themselves in Vietnam, what have you. Maybe even news articles I've seen to corroborate stressful events if they're applying for PTSD. I also like to submit medical literature. So these are studies by doctors and scientists that show maybe why something should be considered to be secondary to another disability or related to something else. I might even submit government reports that show that there was a specific environmental exposure certain places. Again, these are non-presumptive claims. So the door is pretty wide open what you can submit in a supplemental claim. A common thing people do is they will submit nexus letters or independent medical opinions, or these are like independent C&P exams that detail a nexus between whatever the in-service event is or your current condition and or a service-connected condition and your current condition. And if you go online and you're on social media, you'll see folks talking about, we'll do independent medical opinions. And a lot of these claims consultants will try to sell you on these various medical opinions, saying we have in-house doctors who can help you. And sometimes that's appropriate, but I warn you that these medical opinions are not necessarily all they're cracked up to be, and the VA doesn't necessarily just grant because you submit one. So be careful with those before you spend money on it. I've discussed this in another video, but this is another thing we can do to submit it. We can submit in a supplemental claim. So what happens after you submit a supplemental claim? And I'm recording this video in November of 2022. Had you asked me what happens a year ago, I would have told you something different. And the reason that is because I have seen a couple different things happen. One of the things I've seen happen recently is that they turn around within 72 hours and say the evidence isn't new and relevant. You go, well, you don't even have time to review this document. How are you going to say that's not new and relevant? Sometimes they'll sit on it for 3 months and they'll say, this evidence is not new and relevant, but they won't issue any order or they won't request any more medical exams or anything like that. They won't really do much development. They'll just review it and pencil whip it and say it's not new and relevant. So what happens after that happens? Well, we might file a higher level review. There are a couple different assessments we can take at that point, and I'm not going to get into details about what we do to solve that. The other thing that might happen after you submit a request or supplemental claim with your new evidence is they might order new exams. Now, if they order new exams, it's important that you go to those, obviously, right? And you can prepare for them. If they order new exams, but you've submitted an independent medical opinion, I start to scratch my head because that looks a lot like developing to deny, but they might do it. And I can't tell you what would happen at these new exams. It just depends on the circumstances. So a couple different things can happen, and eventually issue a rating decision. And when you get this rating decision, if you still don't agree with it, you can actually submit another supplemental claim. Or you can submit a higher level review request. Or you can go to the BVA, your choice. But again, just because you get denied after supplemental claim doesn't mean your case is over. So with that said, if you have filed a supplemental claim or you filed or you've been appealing your claims and you haven't had luck and the VA is still telling you no, or you've received a rating you don't agree with, give us a call. Now, it's important with all of these, you have to appeal within 1 year of the date of the decision. Again, if you receive a rating decision, you have to appeal within 1 year. If you appeal with a higher level review or a request to go to the BVA, after 1 year, it will get rejected under just about most circumstances. There's some special exceptions to this rule, but under most circumstances, you can only use those after 1 year. Now, if you file a supplemental claim within that 1 year, it's considered appealed, and you can actually keep your effective date of the continuously pursued claim, right? So what that means is that, let's say you apply, you're denied, you file a supplemental claim, and then you get something granted, and you filed that supplemental claim within 1 year, you can keep the effective date of the initial claim. But if you wait more than a year to file a supplemental claim, you get a new effective date, and that's the date of the supplemental claim. So again, it's important to keep this moving and keep rolling on these supplemental claims so that you don't lose the effective date of your initial claim. And I explain why effective dates aren't so important in other videos, but the bottom line is it's going to be the amount of your back pay ultimately. So, like I said a minute ago, you can use a supplemental claim to reopen a claim after 1 year, but if you submit the supplemental claim inside of 1 year after a rating decision, you get that earlier effective date. That's a good thing. So, with that said, if you've been denied your VA disability benefits, if you've been underrated, or you've submitted a supplemental claim and the VA is still telling you no, give us a call. You can see how to get in touch with us on the end screen or in the comments here. Until next time, though, if you like this content, you have questions, feel free to submit a question in the comments here, or I got to do what the YouTubers do. Submit a question here, pointing downwards to the comments, right, while you're watching it. I got to do the other YouTuber thing. You got to hit like or subscribe. Share this video with others who are struggling with their VA disability benefits. Hopefully, I can answer some questions. I'm always looking to answer questions and make this process a little easier. But anyway, until next time, take care.